Thank you very much, Kannan and Stanley Rajangam, for giving me this opportunity to celebrate Ambai's long association with the English department with SCILET, the Study Center for Indian Literature in English and Translation. And also, I am here to celebrate my very close friendship with her. And I'm really honored that I've been asked to speak in the presence of such eminent writers. And at this moment, I would like to very fondly and very gratefully remember the much loved, much admired the writer, literary genius Sundar Ramasamy, because he was the one who first put me in touch with Ambai the writer and Lakshmi. And when I finished reading J.J. Sila Kurippugal, I was so fascinated that I wanted to get that book autographed by him. And I shuttled between his shop and his home and his shop. And those were pre-mobile days. And when I finally met him, he was so amused to see the heavy underlining and the big comments that I had written in the margins. Maybe Kannan was just a toddler then, but when he sensed my feminist leanings, or I should say feminist convictions, he gave me a copy of The Face and the Face Behind the Mask by Lakshmi. And I was instantly hooked to the face, the mask, and the space between, or lack of it, between these two. And from then, Ambai has traveled so far, experienced so much. She has given so much to society and has also received so much by way of awards and also by way of love from different quarters. And when you think of all these different achievements, reaching the age 80 is no big deal. All of us will become octogenarians sooner or later if we can hold on to dear life. And in the case of Ambai, she was rated a promising writer even in her teens, and then she became a major literary voice in her late 30s. And what is truly remarkable, in my opinion, is that she has remained Lakshmi, humility all intact. And her deep concern for the displaced people was revealed even in her student days in the choice of her research subject, the American policy towards the fleeing refugees from Hungary because of the failed revolution in 1956. You can see her wavering support for all the unfortunate, underprivileged people, even now, in the different forms of activism. Lakshmi and I share a number of friends. We have the same kind of likes, and we have definitely the same kind of dislikes. The same things delight us, and the same things make us really, really angry. And we have the same white hair as well. And we also share her love for mischief. And Lakshmi remains charming, irresistible, and very naughty at 80. I have been asked to speak about the impact that she has had on the academic community, particularly the English departments. And because of the colonial hangover, even in the 1980s, there was a lot of resistance for people to include Indian writers in the syllabus, including the regional writings translated into English. But I'm told that the American College English department was the very first to introduce a mandatory Indian literature course in the whole state of Tamil Nadu. And eventually, we could change the mindsets of people, and now we have many courses, including Tamil novels translated into English. And we were privileged and proud to teach Ambai along with Hardy, Jane Austen, and all such masters. And my very close association with Lakshmi started when we invited her to be the chief guest of Pegasus. And don't get me wrong, Pegasus is the name of our literary festival. And this was along with different cultural contests. And she gave an amazing inaugural address. And all the competitions were centered around Ambai's stories, literary quiz, visual and drama presentations, etc., etc. We could thus make more and more students of more and more participating colleges read Ambai. And the different page-to-stage events thrilled us. They may have been very amateurish, but they were innovative, and the students were totally involved. And this gave us so much satisfaction, so much fulfillment for the organizers. And my experience of teaching Ambai beyond cultures, across disciplines, was also for the study abroad students from America, all arranged by an organization called SITA, South India Term Abroad. It was arranged by consortium of colleges and universities from the US. And I taught that course with the late Professor Padmanabhan Nair, a big fan of Ambai. And we introduced the mandatory assessment course where the students had to choose at least 3 stories by Ambai and make a presentation, make an analysis and make a presentation. And invariably, semester after semester, we could see that some of the students, at least 2 or 3 of them, were moved to tears. And I was not surprised. While teaching Ambai in the US also, I could see this kind of great emotional connect. While teaching in China, Indian literature, it was the same experience. While teaching in Philippines, gender fair education, Ambai created the same kind of emotional connect. And of course, while teaching stories like Suryan or Araikul Irundavan, I myself used to choke. And while being coaxed to give talks in different places, and I had the tendency to choose topics like storytelling as a form of survival strategy, because I knew that I could heavily depend on Ambai's stories, and knowing fully well that the audience could be totally engaged. In a way, I was guilty of using Ambai to project my own speaker image, shining with borrowed glory. And my intention was always not wrong, because I knew that we could sensitize the audience with the help of literature. That's the very first step to self-assertion, and also we could move towards egalitarianism. So even if I'm accused of living off of Ambai's power of words, I will do it again and again and again and accept all the compliments. Thank you for being my big source of inspiration, Lakshmi. And how do we really transfer the joy, the pain that we find in the gems of her stories across linguistic borders within India and beyond India? Translation is the only way, because English is the only pan-Indian link language that we have. And the very fact that English, which is a colonial language that has been left behind to unite diverse cultures and diverse languages, shows its enormous grip on us. And the argument that English is a language of your intellectual makeup and not the language of your emotional makeup. It's in the brain of an Indian and not in the blood or bones. You cannot really use it for intimate purposes. You cannot use it to bless and curse, quarrel and kiss. All those arguments are outdated. In fact, they are really irrelevant. And Lakshmi is a multilingual person. She can, to take the cue from Kannan, she can quarrel very well in English, very well in Tamil, and she would fight her own battles in whether she puts on the Ambai cap or the Lakshmi cap. She'll not only fight her own battles, she will also fight the battles of others. Acclaimed translators, Lakshmi Holmstrong and Geeta Krishnan Kuti, all of them, they have spent days and weeks in our SCILET library working on their projects, and they have also done translation workshops for our students. I have enormous respect for these translators and their translations, and Lakshmi has a compulsive urge to write a fiction in Tamil. But even she has agreed to translate your book, and I have seen that she has recently translated Black Coffee in a Coconut Shell, edited by Perumal Murugan. 32 narrators in meticulous translation, some confessional and some testimony, and she has managed to capture 32 voices very beautifully. And this shows the intimate bond that she has with both Tamil and English. And if I'm not mistaken, I have read somewhere that she has even translated Irom Sharmila's poetry into Tamil. Am I right? English to Tamil. So, but she still refrains from translating her own stories into English. Is it because that she is perfectly happy with the product of these translators? Does she own, the question that I have is, does she own these translations as much as she owns the Tamil versions? Every translator cannot be a Lakshmi Holmstrong, but when two very talented, creative Lakshmis get together, there is unparalleled partnership, matchless creative collaboration. And some of you may have even read Lakshmi's books, The Singer and the Song, Mirror and Gestures and all that. So she has perfect and great command over the language. While teaching Ambai in the US, I could not really lay my hands on two of her stories that I very, very badly wanted to include in my course. And I must confess that I dared to translate them myself. That was only for classroom use, for private circulation only. I did not take permission from Lakshmi, but I did not claim to be the translator either. I knew that Lakshmi wouldn't really take me to the legal court, and my intention was pure and simple. Honest and good. I badly wanted to transfer the experience, transfer the emotion. I wanted to create an emotional oneness, emotional togetherness, to bring about a human bond across boundaries, geographical boundaries. And that, I thought, would bring big hope for humanity. After all, sisterhood is global. Women are weighed down by societal expectations all the time. They are expected to be superhuman, always willing, always available, constantly judged for every womanly attribute that they find missing. And this happens in whichever part of the world you are in. And some of you may be very familiar with the Chinese folk tale, which I have repeated in different places maybe. It's often used in translation studies, and also the great poet translator A.K. Ramanujan has also narrated it. Once an emperor, Chinese emperor, ordered a tunnel to be bored through a big mountain because he wanted to create easy access for the people. And the engineers decided that the quickest and easiest way to do that would be to bore these tunnels from both sides after taking precise measurements. And a serious doubt was raised. What if the tunnels do not meet? Back came the response from the engineer, then we will have 2 tunnels instead of 1. And we have before us the corpus of Ambai's stories, literary output, written over 4 decades right before us. High, tall, compelling, awe-inspiring as mountain. And her fiction poses invitation, a challenge for us to scale over or tunnel through. Even if one tunnel fails to meet, we would have many tunnels. Tunneling is a very important literary activity that could facilitate the process of translating ourselves, transforming ourselves. Thank you very much, Ambai, for your inspiring fiction. Thank you, Lakshmi, for being what you are. We may not manage to be an Ambai or a Lakshmi at 80 if we last that long, but we all have stories in us. We'd be the narrator or the narrated. We have stories to remember, stories to forget, stories to hide, forbidden stories, stories that delight us, stories that disturb us, stories that put us to sleep, stories that keep us awake and haunt us. But we still may not manage to narrate them the way you do, mainly because we do not see people and things as you do, as they are, but we see them as we are. And therefore, we may not have the narrative voice to show the unseen, to voice the unsaid, to write the inexpressible, and even make silence the most eloquent of expressions. So we need to read and reread Ambai in order to be inspired, to break free of the silences that we are locked into, so that our stories also matter. Our stories can also resonate. Thank you very much for your patient listening.